Gods did not dwell in temples. It was profitable to insist that prayers between polished walls were stronger, and that gods listened for the clatter of coin into offering bowls. A sweet lie for those lucky few whose gold could fill the temples to bursting, but a lie nonetheless. All prayers were equal, and a battlefield knew more prayer than a temple would ever hear. The birthing chambers, the sick houses, hungry homes in the dead of winter, gods heard their names on the lips of those who lacked. Food, survival, fortune, blood. A prayer is offered. Zajira almost lost grip on the man in front of her. The brewmaster was tall and round, a man who could not be moved while he was sober, nor halted when he was drugged. If he fell, she didn't know how long it would take to get him back up. Outside their narrow alley, the festival crowd was too busy to spare them a glance. The swampy little town of Jelana was a whirlwind of hopeful worshippers bickering over where to pitch their altars. The spirits of the godless mass were simple, animalistic things, and a good altar needed plenty of space to catch their attention. In a town like Jelana, there wasn't enough space to go around.
Forgive me, Father.
Zajira steered the brewmaster toward the rundown storehouses on the town's outskirts. They were too rotten to hold grain, and avoided by townsfolk who didn't want mites in their clothes. They would be torn down and replaced come springtime, but now was not springtime. No one would look for the brewmaster there. A prayer is offered. The call buzzed in Zajira's ear like a mosquito.
Move. I'm going to.
Brewmaster Asafa.
Zajira cursed. The brewmaster was shaking off the haze, and a good portion of the drug now lay splattered across her feet. She couldn't give him more with a witness charging at them.
Brewmaster Asafa. Your wife is looking for you. The family
Damn
altar...
you, boy. You...
He's drunk. I'd keep your boots at a distance if I were you.
Sir, your wife?
I'll be with her in a moment. Just getting some candles. Oh. Hello. You're not from around here. Do I know you?
His eyes slid up Zajira's body for the second time that day. 20 years old, with bronze skin, black eyes, and locks pulled sensibly behind her head, Zajira might have passed as a local, if not for the fact she wore pants instead of a skirt.
You brought me back here, sir. Don't you remember?
Did I now? I suppose we'd better be alone then.
I'll have to tell the brewmistress, sir.
She has her side interests, I have mine. Now get out of here.
The boy sprinted off. A prayer is offered.
Now, why don't you remind me of your name? Oh.
Zajira grabbed his collar, searching for... there. His own leather pouch. The spirit inside let out an alarmed buzz. Sex, unusual, danger. That made her skin tingle.
Now, if you're worried about being judged, I assure you that my guardian spirit...
Zajira yanked the pouch off the brewmaster's neck to ensure its spirit had no claim to his soul. His mouth fell open in shock as she pulled out her own leather pouch. A prayer is offered. She pressed it to the brewmaster's collarbone and drew her dagger.
In the name of Calliopex.
Zajira slit his throat. The brewmaster didn't try to scream until his voice was already gone. He fell to his knees. She crouched next to him, her shy half-smile gone like mist in the sunlight. She never felt guilt over a kill, but there was always respect. Always the sense that prey deserved courtesy as it died. The collar of the brewmaster's tunic kept the blood from spraying too badly. His chest heaved. He reached out, perhaps to grab her, hadn't the strength. And then he was dead. A prayer is offered, mixed with pleasure, acceptance, the tithe is paid. But the moment was short. Zajira had another tithe to answer. She pressed the bloody amulet to her chest.
I am a blade to brandish.
A prayer is offered. The voices chorused, accompanied by the sensation of fingers clutching her heart. North. Nearby. Urgent. She looked towards the nearby storehouse, where she had planned to kill the brewmaster. It was too early to toss him into Pigpen, and time was too short for a burial, but laziness was a sin of the highest order. She couldn't leave him, but she could hide him. Zajira dragged the corpse inside by the feet. The storehouse was bare of any crates, barrels, or other convenient cover, but it did have a hayloft and a rickety ladder. She took the traveler's axe from her belt, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work chopping the brewmaster's legs off. With messy strikes that would make a butcher cringe, she had them off in 5 minutes, nearly 50 pounds each. Once they were in the hayloft, the rest of the corpse was much lighter. Zajira covered the mess with moldy hay and broke the ladder to pieces. The alley ground was churned from the dragging, but not overly bloody. The brewmaster's amulet lay discarded, but there was no spiritual energy when she picked it up. As expected, whatever spirit had inhabited the thing was long gone. Zajira pocketed the amulet to toss off the road when she departed. If the spirit changed its mind and decided to come home, she had to make sure it wouldn't find the body and alert others to the crime. North, chanted the whispers in her amulet. Hurry. The dirt grew softer and mossier as she left town, until eventually the buildings opened into wooded swampland. The sun was hidden by trees, their brittle, half-naked branches echoing like bones in a spirit rattle. A golden glow tried and failed to warm her skin. Late afternoon was turning fast to early evening. Jelana was a modest hamlet, built as a midway point for the dozen isolated farms, fisheries, and lumber mills scattered through the wetlands of Diabrak. Zajira's horse, a young Palomino mare called Blythe, waited at one of the many travel houses along the main road. Townsfolk were too busy with their altars to notice the departure of one horse and rider. Once the town disappeared behind them, Zajira grasped her amulet.
I am a blade to brandish.
North, nearby, off the road. A spirit hummed at the edge of her senses, there and gone again. Another rattled in the trees, while a third slithered along the road. She couldn't see them, but she could feel them like breezes against her skin, each drawn to Jelana like beasts to the smell of blood. The road was dry, but the ground beside it grew deeper and wetter as Zajira rode. Her amulet's call of north and slightly east turned into northeast, and eventually east and slightly north. With the sun setting, any ride through the wetlands would be difficult. Luckily, there was enough light to spot another horse and rider galloping from the west.
Ugh, Bloodfather preserve me.
The other rider caught sight of Zajira and slowed his horse to a trot.
Beloved.
He was ebony-skinned, dark-eyed, and only a year older than Zajira, and he might have been handsome if not for his permanent scowl. They were both dressed in the same hard-boiled leathers, but he wore all of his weapons openly. Sword on one side, dagger on the other, another dagger in each boot, and a crossbow upon his back.
Beloved. You know, you should put some of those weapons away. Mercenaries travel in bands. You cannot pretend to be one if you travel alone.
Strangely, no one's dared ask about my weapons yet.
He nodded to the dagger at her hip.
Perhaps if you carried more, you wouldn't waste so much time answering our father's call.
I was already on Tithe.
So was I. Go to the rendezvous point. I'll join you when I'm done.
This one is mine, Lazan.
My horse is faster. I'll reach it first. 14 kills against your 13.
You haven't killed a 14th yet.
We both know you can't stop me.
She should have walked away. She knew this scene by heart, but her beloved had a talent for stirring up unholy emotions.
Yeah!
She spurred to a gallop. She took the fading sunlight into her mind and wove it like thread upon a loom. The light obeyed. It avoided her, avoided Blythe, and for a moment they were invisible. But invisibility was never enough to fool her beloved. When Lazan threw lightning, Zajira knew the air must have shattered like porcelain. There would have been thunder, and a burnt air smell almost like copper, but in the moment she experienced none of it. She was on her horse, and then she was on her back. Her whole body thrummed with static, like ants crawling under her skin. Lazan dismounted, took her arms, and hauled her off the road. He settled her below a leaning willow and cleared away any sticks that might press into her back.
How many times have we done this, beloved? You can survive being second favorite for a year. Go to the rendezvous point or go home. The godless mass is a poor time to be wandering.
Zajira was unable to slap him. All she could do was listen in fury as he stood, mounted his horse, and forged eastward. Further down the road were more hoofbeats, and a twinge of relief cut through the static. Blythe had fled, but not far. Zajira gulped a mouthful of air. Her body remembered itself, her lungs expanded, and she forced her fingers to move.
Blythe, give a curtsy, girl. Give a curtsy.
Blythe knelt on her front legs. Zajira laced fingers through the cream-colored mane and rolled across the saddle.
Up, girl. Don't let him get away.
Blythe stood. Zajira set herself awkwardly upright. Every movement was needles against her nerves, but the humiliation was worse than the aftershocks. She could move. That meant she was not yet defeated. Zajira followed the eastward gap Lazan had made in the swamp. The branches hung low, gray lichen in their faces. No gold was left in the sunset, only red, and soon enough that would be gone too. Once the road was behind them, Zajira steered Blythe to a high and dry hill crowned by scraggly willows.
Easy, girl. Won't be for long now.
She continued on foot. The air crackled around her, so thick with spirits that it made her ears ring. They were small, wild embodiments of hunt, fear, and hunger. Most of them were too young to have a true name, or so old that no worshippers lived to remember them. But every now and again, like an alligator through muddy water, Zajira felt the passage of a wraith. Heavier than the rest, their names echoed in her mind whenever she got too close. Sphex, with fractured memories of hunting in groups, cooperation, social creatures. There was Island, a wraith of food storage, careful rationing, enemy of gluttony. Greater than spirits, lesser than gods, the wraiths knew the taste of worship and swam toward Jelana for more. The red sky became purple. The darkness thickened. When she could no longer see the difference between a shadow and a trench in the ground, Zajira closed her eyes and wove. Her gift came slowly on account of all the spiritual noise. The light split into reds, oranges, yellows, greens, blues, purples, and everything beyond. When she opened her eyes, it all appeared in tapestry, millions upon millions of threads from the sky to the ground. Compared to Lazan's lightning, Zajira's gift was harmless. She could not strike a person with light, but she loved how every sunbeam contained a rainbow, hers to admire and sculpt as she pleased. And compared to Lazan's lightning, Zajira's gift was more practical to the everyday needs of an assassin. She could see perfectly well in the dark, and easily spot hoofprints in the moss. Lazan had slowed his horse here, then turned south. On a grassy swell between two hills, Zajira found Lazan's black piebald gelding tethered alone.
Hey there, boy. Easy now.
Assassins were not vengeful, so Zajira chose to think of it as a training exercise when she approached the horse with soft murmurs, stroked its proud neck, and cut the saddle strap. If Lazan didn't check his equipment before every ride, like they were supposed to, it would be his own fault if he fell into a bog. Zajira squeezed her amulet. East, just. There. The wetlands sloped into a basin of water, reeds, and cypress trees. In the distance, someone laughed. Zajira's heart sank, although it shouldn't have. Racing Lazan had been a losing game to begin with, and now, with negotiations started, she was forbidden to interrupt. A dutiful assassin would have walked away. If it were anyone other than Lazan, she would have. Zajira's feet took her down the slope.
Surely you joke. The Whispering Blades sell death, not miracles.
I'm not asking for a miracle, unless you're telling me you don't have the skill.
Zajira commanded the light to bend around her. Invisibility was easier in the dark, and soon no prey would have been able to see her from even 6 inches away.
It's not a matter of skill, but of timing. If you had offered me this contract yesterday alongside a mountain of coin, I'd have accepted it gladly.
Zajira found a cypress tree slanted over the reeds. Her shoes were silent against the bark.
Money is no concern. Name a price.
It's a 4-hour ride. 3 if I push my horse. Faking a suicide takes weeks if done properly.
Lord Valdehak is old and prone to bursts of emotion. He already suspects his wife of infidelity. No one would doubt his suicide.
He could be a regular madman, and the most skilled Whispering Blade will refuse this contract. If you need him dead tomorrow, perhaps we could negotiate. But before this coming midnight is pure insanity. I'd have less than 2 hours to scout, infiltrate, get him alone, kill him with no witnesses, and then stage the body in an appropriate manner.
At last, Zajira spotted her beloved amongst the reeds. He stood by the water, and across from him stood the tithe caller. Between them lay the corpse of a young man, presumably the life which had been used to call tithe. The tithe caller was of equal height to Lazan, and a few inches taller than Zajira. His skin was bronze, his wavy black hair long enough to fall past his shoulder blades. His clothing was plain, and the dirt suggested several hours spent on horseback.
Any risk can be bought. Money has value, but political influence? Political protection?
Still cannot change reality. What you're asking for simply cannot be done, and my life is forfeit if I fail. The only suicide you be buying is my own.
Movement whispered in the reed-crowded shallows. A wolf, black as night and tall as a newborn foal. The wolf halted at the base of Zajira's tree and looked up, yellow eyes passing over where she sat invisibly on a branch.
So the Whispering Blades cannot kill everything. My mistake for calling you then.
The Whispering Blades are still human. There is no deal here.
Lazan turned away, stalking through the reeds to higher ground. The Tidecaller was left alone with the corpse at his feet, comforted by the chirp of crickets and the hum of spirits on their way to the godless mass. The Tidecaller pinched the bridge of his nose, then hauled the corpse by one foot into the water.
Flint, here.
The wolf, presumably Flint, looked between the Tidecaller and Zajira. After sinking the corpse, the Tidecaller approached.
What's wrong, girl? Agnes.
A green flame sparked in his palm. Sorcery. Up close, Zajira saw more details. His bronze skin was smooth, save for one scar on his chin. Older than 20 years, younger than 30. Dark scruff lined his face, though shaving lines suggested it was normally tamed neat around the jaw. His brown eyes were narrowed in suspicion, or perhaps exhaustion. His long, wavy hair was held back by a pin of solid gold, and on his thumbs glittered 2 rings. His plain clothes were new sewn, and his traveling boots looked as if this was their first journey out of the cobbler's shop. Perhaps he actually did have a mountain of gold. Zajira wasn't forbidden from this contract if Lazan refused, but he'd been correct to call it impossible. Staging the suicide of Lord Vadahawk by midnight, after a 3 hours ride? Lazan certainly couldn't. Zajira might succeed, but it was a dangerous gamble. She and Lazan had each killed 13 tithes this year. Zajira had been their father's favorite since they were children, and she had no intention of losing that honor now. Favoritism meant she could leave home whenever she wanted, without any other blades looking over her shoulder, but she couldn't seal a contract under such punishing terms.
There's nothing there, Flint. Come. We can't worry about spirits. There's plenty of mortal trouble headed our way tomorrow.
He snuffed out the light in his hand. The wolf threw one last puzzled glance over her shoulder, then followed him south. Lord Ranya Vadahawk was liege lord of Jelana and 3 more towns in the wetlands, not to mention master of a reputable merchant empire out of Diabrok's capital, Anaj. Zajira had been to his estate years ago. A swift horse could take her there in 3 hours, and she knew Blythe was up to the task, but once she arrived... To fail a tithe was a cardinal sin, punishable by death if the Blood and Whispers chose. A mountain of money the Tidecaller offered, to stage a suicide before midnight. Midnight was still some 5 hours away, and Blythe could give her between 1 and 2 hours to pull it off. It was an impossible task for Lazan. The gift of lightning was ill-suited to infiltration, but an invisible assassin could slip past guards with no trouble at all. The thought of Lazan's face when she was named favorite because of his rejected tithe. No. Fantasizing about victory was a distraction, and worse, unholy. If she killed Ranya Vadahawk without sealing a contract, failure wouldn't cost her life. But would it count toward her yearly number? It was a minor sin to kill out of contract, which would be punished by pain instead of death. Her father loved money almost as much as he loved blood, so if anything might soothe a minor sin, a mountain of coin would surely do it. If she could actually kill Ranya Vadahawk. If she could find the Tidecaller again. In the distance, leather creaked and a tired horse groaned. The tithe-caller mounted a black steed. Sagira grabbed her amulet.
Thou art become a witness.
Like a snake through her fingers, one of the spirits in her amulet wriggled towards the tithe-caller. He rode southward, but Sagira felt the spirit at his back. It tugged at her amulet with the gentleness of a spider thread, hers to follow when the task was done.
A mountain of coin, sorcerer. For both our sakes, I hope you tell the truth.